everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Ryan. This is Jess. We are sober as fuck. Before we get to today's guest, just want to remind everybody we are available on every platform out there, video, or you can just listen. Also, please make sure you are subscribing, sharing, commenting, all the cool shit on the podcast. And make sure you share.
Leaving reviews.
Leaving reviews, yes. I always forget that.
Do you like
one.
us? Do you hate us?
Just leave a
Do you
damn
wish
review.
we would just shut up and go away?
That's not going to happen.
We won't, but we appreciate the feedback.
Yes, we appreciate the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anything else?
I bought my first pair of Tacovas today.
Oh, Lord.
They're all black. They're very Johnny Cash. I love them.
Like your soul.
Well, you know, it's okay. That's why you married me, right?
I think so.
I think I have a beautiful soul.
Yeah. You wore boots last night, which was kind of wild.
I did.
So you go and you stole Lily's boots last night and then bought your own today.
Listen, and you're like, how often are you going to wear those? I'll wear them all the time. I'll sleep in them. True story, and then we'll get on to our guest. And you know the story. When I was a little girl in Texas, I had a pink leather pair of cowgirl boots.
I have seen evidence of that.
You have seen evidence of it. And I wore those motherfuckers 24/7. And my brother told you the story about it too. Like you could hear me clonking from a mile away. I think I wore them until like my feet bled. I love them so much.
I think they did that so they could keep an eye on you. It's basically almost like having a leash.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I remember my mom used to be like, Jessie, you can't wear those all of the time. And it was like preschool, but I was still like, I have little snapshot memories of it. And I wore them everywhere.
It's quite impressive.
And I am not a wear pink kind of gal, like black is my color. But I am like this tempted to buy myself a pair of pink cowgirl boots just for the nostalgia of it. Yeah, I wouldn't buy Tacovas because they're too expensive, but just like a cheap pair of pink cowgirl boots for whenever I want to. Yeah. But I'm very happy and I feel very powerful in my black Tacovas.
Nice. Very
Johnny Cash. I love it.
Cool.
That's the most exciting thing that's happened in my life.
So who do we have on the podcast today?
So today we have a really special guest. Her name is Michelle, and she is my brother's like best friend in the whole world. Mm-hmm. So they almost share a sobriety date together. She said that he has about 2 weeks on her, which whatever. We're just not going to count that, okay? Because
so, I mean, she's
whatever.
Coming up on like 6 years.
Almost 6 years in February, awesome. Which is amazing. And they are what you call litter mates. Yep. And for a while, he's been reaching out to me saying, like, you need to get Michelle on the show. She needs to tell her story. It's a very powerful story.
Yes.
And she is just a really beautiful soul. He has sent me pictures of her throughout her process and
we've actually met Michelle a couple times.
We have. And awesome. If you stay till the end, Michelle, along with others in Dallas, are the sole reason that we ask the P story at the end. Right. So she experienced that with us. That's right. All right. Well, I'm excited about this one and let's bring her on.
Let's bring her on.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle.
Michelle.
Hi. Hello.
It's good to see you again.
It is.
Good to see you guys. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome.
We're so glad you joined us.
Thank you for being here. The honor is all ours, to be honest. Like, my brother's like, if you don't get Michelle on your damn podcast, man. But he doesn't cuss at me. So it was more like, you need to have Michelle on your podcast.
Yeah, I cuss for both of us.
I love it.
There you go.
It's so funny because he's so type A. But the women he hangs out with are so, like, we are so very, like, strong and we cuss and no nonsense, like, alpha women. And he's just always like, oh, my God, Jess, like, you shouldn't think that way. But every single woman in his life is the same way. We're all cut from the same cloth. But anyways, enough about him, because this is not about him. This is about you. So you have quite the story to tell. I know that you're not looking forward to telling it. You're looking forward to being on here, but not telling it. So tell us who Michelle is, how she got here.
Give us the deets.
6 years sober almost. That's incredible.
Yes. So, yes. Okay. So yeah, I am very nervous about being here. I don't like having the spotlight on me at all. And that is mainly because I have a lot of childhood trauma, and I talk a little bit about it when I talk to people about my story, only so that there is a little bit of background on it, but I don't spend too much time on it. But in my childhood, having attention on you and people seeing you and noticing you wasn't safe. So when people are watching me and paying attention to me, and I am the primary focus of things, it is decidedly dangerous. Everything in my nervous system screams that I'm in danger. So that's why I have such a hard time doing this, and that's what makes me share my story with people, is because I know there's more people out there that are just like that.
So, I bet. Yeah.
I was born in Delaware. Yes, that's a state. I get a lot. What state is that in? I was born in 77, January 10th of 1977. I spent most of my childhood in the same apartment, sharing a room with my older sister, who was 2 years older than me. I was abused by an uncle for 7 years of my life, from the ages of 3 until 10. I was also abused by my father, physically, sexually by my uncle, and physically abused by my father. So I learned that physical touch in whatever form meant love, and that sometimes safety meant going unnoticed. I remember my first dabbles into substance use was I was taught how to smoke by my uncle. That was his candy. And so it would be, if you let me do this, then I'll give you a cigarette. And back then, in the before times, in the olden times, the year of the dinosaur, you could go to the grocery store or go to the convenience store at 5, 6, 7 years old and say you were getting a pack of cigarettes for your parents, and they would just hand it to you. So, there was no question on what we were doing. And I was smoking with my friends and teaching them how to smoke. I was the bad influence for all of my friends when I was growing up. I also remember that my father had a liquor cabinet. It was a really small one with really pretty crystal decanters. And I don't know where I learned it from. I don't know who I learned that from, but I would take drinks out of it and replace it with water before I was 10. And I don't think that my family had drug and alcohol issues because I never got caught. And I'm pretty sure at least half those bottles were water by the time I was done.
That old trick.
Right. I don't know where I learned that. I mean, there's really no memory of that. When I came clean about what was going on with us growing up and what I was experiencing with my uncle, I was 10 years old, and anyone who was around my age, they may remember this commercial when we were kids of a little girl who was trying to tell her mom that something bad was happening, and she got scared and she stopped, but then she told her teddy bear, and the mom overheard it. And she told her it'll be okay and reassured her. And up until then, I didn't know that what was happening to me was necessarily wrong. But that inspired me to turn around and tell my mom what was happening. And it did not end the way it did for that little girl. I was told I shouldn't make up stories. And so I had to go and get my sister and have my sister back me up. And that is how the story came out of what was going on. And my parents just said that we would no longer be allowed to see my uncle. And that was going to be the end of it. Sorry, I'm a little nervous about telling these parts.
It's okay.
You're completely
I do
fine.
understand the importance of it. But
you tell what you want to tell and leave the rest. You're doing great.
Right. Okay. So they told my uncle that they knew what was going on and that he would no longer be allowed to see us. What I didn't know at that age was that my uncle was a police officer. Mm. And so once he knew that my parents knew, he got scared and he went to the psychiatrist for the police department and said, I've been doing something really horrible, and I guess played it off like he was the one that was coming clean. So we went through court and we showed up to court a couple of times and we wrote letters to the judge about the impact that it had on us. And ultimately, he ended up with 2 years in jail, 2 years house arrest, 2 years probation for 7 years of abuse. Mm. And it wasn't long after that my mom decided that she was going to take me and my sister and move us, because my father had begun also putting hands on my mom. And she moved us out to California. I dabbled with substance use as a teenager. I drank multiple times. Didn't understand how I was able to handle my liquor and my friends weren't. It was the most bizarre thing to me that we would go and have these bouts of drinking together, and one of them would end up with alcohol poisoning and the other one was in the hospital for this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, geez, I was like, fine. Everything was great. And I just didn't understand it. And then I used marijuana a few times. It wasn't anything big. It was, and then I really got into addiction when I got a little bit older. I discovered my first love, which was opiates, when I was pregnant with my oldest child. And they had given me Tylenol with codeines because I have chronic pain. And I was taking those. And then I had to have an emergency C-section with him. And so I was on pain management from after that. And it had gotten infected because I'm diabetic and have healing issues. And so it didn't heal right. And I was on these pain pills for a really, really long time. And then once that was all healed, they stopped giving me them. And I went through what I did not know at the time was withdrawals. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like postpartum. I didn't know any better. Moving on, and these are just the different times that I had substance uses in my life. I didn't really get into deep addiction until I was an adult. I had gastric bypass surgery when I was 30 years old because I had been diabetic since I was 19. And by the time I was 29, I had started passing protein in my urine, which is the first sign that your kidneys are starting to give out. And so they said, we got to do something and do something drastic. So they said they wanted to do a gastric bypass surgery on me. And I was like, you want to do what now? They said, and we want to do this. And, you know, the side benefit is that you'll lose weight. And I was like, you want to do surgery? I'd rather be fat. Like, I'm okay with this. Like, this doesn't sound like fun at all. And they said, well, no, here's the issue. If we don't do this, you won't see your child graduate high school. And I said, well, okay, sure. After the surgery and I got out of the hospital, they sent me home with a cough syrup bottle looking thing, this big.
Damn.
Of liquid Vicodin. And I discovered that not only did that take away the physical pain that I was in, but suddenly all of the emotional pain I was feeling was gone. And I was like, I can now be super mom, super wife, super friend, super student. I was married. I had 2 stepdaughters. I had my 2 kids. And I took care of my friends, 4 children as well, while she was going to school and working. I took care of our house. I took everybody to and from school because my husband was a truck driver. I was in school almost full time. So all of it was me doing all of these things. And no one had told me that I could ask for help. I just assumed I had to do all of these things, and to ask for help is weak. I had also, one of the things I failed to mention, lost my mother while I was pregnant with my youngest. So it was just me. I didn't have any parents. And I was getting married, pregnant with my youngest child, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, taking care of my mother while she was passing away. She died of kidney failure due to diabetes.
Wow.
And doing all of these things. And I was doing that essentially alone. And so discovering the pain medication was amazing. I used liquid Vicodin and then pill forms of Vicodin, and then buying them from other people on the street for probably about 8 months. And surprisingly, my husband didn't know what was going on. I do know the biggest indicator that something was wrong with me and happening with me and that nobody noticed is I'm a self-soother. I rock. And the whole time I was using the pain medication, I stopped rocking. I was no longer rocking. And I was like that. It dawned on me when I got sober the first time. I went, oh, okay. That makes sense. It was an interesting thing that my sister-in-law had discovered. But I was using those for roughly about 8 months when I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this. This is too much. I was using all of our money. I wasn't paying our mortgage anymore. I wasn't taking care of the things that I needed to do. And it was getting really, really expensive and getting more and more. And the times of running out of them and going through the physical pain of it was happening more often, to where I was like, oh, this sucks. Like this, I don't want to do this. I need to stop this. And I sat my husband down and I said, hey, I need help. I can't do this anymore. I'm abusing pain medication and I'm buying them on the street. And he said, I knew something was up, but I wasn't sure what it was. So I checked myself into a short stay psychiatric unit, and it was a 5-day detox, and I ended up staying there for 14 days because of all the other stuff going on with me. Mm-hmm. And my husband only came and saw me once or twice while I was there. Wasn't really thrilled with everything that I was doing and felt that I should have just been able to stop, I guess, is where he was at with it. I got out and came back home and thought I was doing okay. I got put on Xanax for the anxiety and I started abusing Soma pain medications. And then I was taking those a lot. I had gotten to the point of where I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. And Soma, I was sleeping 20 hours a day taking those. And I just wanted to not wake up. Mm-hmm. One of the times that I had taken a few of the Soma and then I had to go to the bathroom and I was asleep on a chair in the living room. And I got up to go to the bathroom and I got caught up in the blanket that I had around me. And I lost my footing and I fell and I smacked my face on the heating grate that was on the floor in the living room and knocked myself unconscious.
Wow. Damn.
And my youngest child found me like that on the floor and went and got her dad. And the next day, my husband took my youngest and left and took her. And I will say that as much as that hurt, it was the smartest thing that he could have done for my child and probably for me, because it really helped me hit bottom way faster than letting me keeping going. Mm-hmm. I went from having a home and 2 cars and raising my kids and doing all of those things to living in a Salvation Army and having nothing very quickly. And it just got worse and worse from there. I was introduced to methamphetamine because someone thought that was better than using the Soma, because I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. And so they said, well, if you use this, then you won't want to sleep. And I said, well, okay, sure, I'll try that. And so I was using that for a long time. And I was homeless. I didn't have anywhere to live. I was staying in different people's couches, living in a car. At one point, I was living in the basement of a trap house. And I was getting food stamps from the state, and this was in California. And I was using most of my food stamps to pay my rent to the person that owned the house. And we lived down in the basement and there was no running water. And one of the hardest things that I went through there, one of the most dehumanizing parts of doing all of that, was with no running water, you don't have anywhere that you can use the bathroom necessarily. And so we were using buckets to go to the bathroom. And I learned to urinate in an oaky rigged Pepsi 2-liter bottle. And that is what I had to do, because you couldn't get to the store that was 6 blocks away immediately. And I only share that part of it so that people understand that there is no shame in what you have to do to survive. And there are things in your life that you have to make okay somehow in your head so you can survive.
Mm-hmm.
And in that basement, I accepted that I was going to die there.
Mm.
And that nobody would know that I had died. And I came to terms with that. I accepted that fact. I had been dating someone and living with someone there that became abusive. And I have a best friend. We have been best friends since I was 18 years old. And she found out that he had laid hands on me. And at the time, I didn't bruise. And he had beaten me in the face. And there were no marks on my face whatsoever, except for a little bit of a bruise on the inside of my lip where my teeth had gone through my lip.
Mm.
And I got up the next day after it happened, and I looked in the mirror and I saw no bruises, and I went, oh no, now he knows that he can do this and there's no marks. And so I talked to her and I told her what was going on, and I told her I was afraid. And she said, here is the deal. We're not going to talk about this again. I'm going to be there in 3 days. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to text about it. When I get there, you're going to tell him that I'm coming into town to see my mom and that we're going to go grab something to eat. You're going to pack one small bag and tell him that my mom agreed to let you use her laundry so that you can wash some clothes, and that you'll be back in about an hour and a half. No arguments. I'm coming. Just say yes. And I told her, I said, well, I don't know. And she said, I have already talked to Kaylin, and that's my son. And he said for me to come get you. I said, well, okay then. Okay. And I'm losing my AirPods, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh no.
That's okay.
So 3 days later, she called and she said, hey, I'm here and I wanted to come and see you for a minute. And hey, my mom said that you could wash some clothes. So grab some clothes, and I'll get you some clothes washed, and then I'll bring you back. We're gonna go grab something to eat. And I had to act really surprised and excited. And he walked me up to the car, and he was like smelling something fishy was going on a little bit. He kept leaning into the car when she's telling him that we're going to go do this, and I'll have her back here in a little bit. And he's like, okay. And he's kind of leaning over me in the car and looking at her, and she had to really sell it. And he finally was like, okay, all right. Well, I love you, babe. I'll see you shortly. And he shuts the door and she takes off, and we were both like terrified. And we didn't stop until we crossed state lines. And she pulled over finally after we got into Arizona, and she took one look at me and she just started bawling. She said, I don't think you would have made it another couple of weeks. I just looked awful. Now, mind you, I'd been using methamphetamine and living in the basement in God knows what kind of conditions. And I'm like, do I smell really bad? And she's like, yes, but it's fine. I don't care. She's like, that, I don't care about any of that. I don't think you would have made it 2 more weeks. I had infections and abscesses in my jaws from bad teeth, and my eyes were black, and I was 105 pounds. Like, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And she sat there telling me she was sorry. So what are you sorry for? And she's like, I should have made you come sooner. I said, you're saving my life. What are you talking about? I'm an adult. This isn't your job. And she's like, I can't drive and cry at the same time, but I should have done something sooner. And she brought me back to where she lived, and I lived on her couch for a while, and she helped me get Medicaid and get my teeth removed and taken care of and get me on antibiotics. And she drove me 4 hours to go and have that taken care of, and drove me back to her house. And I stayed on her couch while I got my feet back up under me again. And then I finally was able to start working, and I discovered alcohol. And she thought that I was doing okay. And I moved out of her house and got my own apartment. And then her husband's job, he worked for the oil fields, and they moved and left. And so she had to leave and took off. And my son came to live with me there. And she didn't know. My best friend didn't know that my drinking had gone crazy, because no one ever knew I had a drinking issue. It was drugs. I always had a reason for everything I was doing. Everyone gets hooked on pain medication, and I was living in a trap house. Wouldn't you use meth to kind of get through all of that kind of stuff, So there was always a really good reason for the things that I was doing. And I hid the alcohol use. Like I here and there, sure, everyone knew I was drinking, but nobody knew how bad it really was, and that it was every single day. And the worst possible thing was that I was working for a fast food restaurant, and there was a liquor store right next door. So I would leave work, and I wasn't driving. I didn't have a license, and I would walk to and from work, and I would leave work with my cup and go over to the liquor store and get some vodka in a little, like the cheap little thing of it, and pour it into my drink and take that first drink and feel that warmth from the top of my head down to the tips of my toes. And I would be halfway drunk before I ever got home. And what I thought was an every now and then thing suddenly became every single day I was doing that. Every single day I was doing it. And sometimes I was doing it multiple times in the day of going and getting alcohol. I don't like wine. I'm not a wine drinker. But in Oklahoma, the liquor stores aren't open on the weekends. I hate wine. I think it's disgusting. But on Sundays, I was drinking wine. I would go to the gas station and pick up wine because I didn't have any more alcohol. So I thought the smartest thing in the world would be to buy the big, huge bottle of vodka, the 22 rot gut vodka, because I'm like, oh, if I get that, then I don't have to worry about the wine. Turns out that didn't work out at all. I would just drink that in a night, and I would say very quickly, but it wasn't super fast. Like I was drinking this lasted for about a year that I was drinking, but it snowballed really fast once I started drinking heavier and heavier and heavier. And I had managed to get up to a gallon of vodka a night that I was drinking every single night. And my son had come to live with me for the first time in years because I thought I had my life together. And I did not treat him well. I did not treat him how he deserved. But that kid has saved my life more times than I can count. And if he hadn't have been there, I probably, again, wouldn't be here today. Because he sat there and he said, Mom, I want you to get help. Like, can you get help? Please get help. And that's what got me into going to rehab the first time. And I had him living in my apartment, and he was having to be a grown-up all of a sudden and taking care of bills and having to pay the rent while I was off trying to get sober. And I went to a detox in Oklahoma City and was there for about 5 days. And they helped find placement for me at a rehab center after I did that. And I heard a man talking that worked there that told me about and told all of us his story. And he had a similar story. And this is why I share my trap house story, because he was very honest and said, I lived in a trap house and I used the bathroom in a bucket. And I heard that and I went, oh, I'm not the only one. Okay. That's not normal. I see. Okay. But that there's no shame in admitting these things. Got it. Okay. And they handed out this book, a little red book that I'd never heard of before, never seen. And he handed it to me and he said, you need to read this. Like you need to read this. And I said, okay, sure. You know, I can do that. And I got on that plane and I read that book, the first 164 pages of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. On that plane going from Oklahoma to Mississippi with a layover, so I had plenty of time to do it in. And I recognized myself in those pages. I recognized the little girl of 5, 6, 7 years old in those pages, and the behaviors and the things that I would do. I was doing all of those things as a child before I ever used any substances. And it was like a light switch came on and I went, oh, okay, this makes sense. Now I understand what is wrong with me. Now I know I can fix this. And I know there's something, you know, I don't know if anyone is catching on. There's a big red flag there, like the first mistake that I made. I know what's wrong with me now and I know what I need to do to fix it. And so I went to rehab and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't want to be an addict. And I'm an addict and I'm an alcoholic. And this is who I am. And I will never do this again. And everything they taught me was great. And I had a counselor there that said things to me that really resonated. And one of the biggest things he said to me was, keep your consequences right here. Don't ever forget those. And I kept that with me. And I still, to this day, I keep that right there. And I don't forget how far I fell and how wrong things went. And play that tape through and remember, you know, okay, well, if I make this choice and I follow that through, all of these things that he taught me, and I was like, okay, great. And I was really excited. And then they said, okay, well, I think it would be a really great idea if you do sober living and the IOP program. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. No. I'm sorry, what? You want me to do what? And they're like, yeah, we think it'd be really great if you stay here and do the IOP program. We really recommend it. You know, it's going to give you a great new start. And I said, that's not happening. I have an apartment. My kid is there. I have a job. I can't stay here. This is all I got. No, like, I'm not going to do that. And they said, okay, well, sure. You don't have to. You don't have to do that at all. Good luck getting home. I said, what are you talking about? Good luck getting home. I don't know what you're going to do now, but good luck. What do you mean good luck getting home? Because I'm in Mississippi and I live in Oklahoma. I had to figure out how to get from Mississippi back to Oklahoma. Because what they don't tell you on the front end is, if you don't do all of the wonderful things that they suggest that you do, you have to figure it out for yourself. it's a hard lesson to learn. But I was like, okay, well, it's fine. They said go to meetings and do all these things. So I'm like, okay, so I was very gung ho, and I got a Greyhound bus ticket home, and I'm like, okay, well, I flew in there, but I was going home on a Greyhound, but that's okay because I've taken plenty of Greyhounds in my life, and I was taking a Greyhound coming down, so this is nothing. This is fine. I can handle that. And I took that Greyhound home, and I was ready and ready to just, really be sober and really do all of these things. And it was going to be great. And I was going to figure all of this out. And I got back, and my son was really excited to see me. And I was ready to do all of these things and start work again and go to meetings. And I looked up the meetings in my town, and it turns out that there is one AA meeting a week in the little town that I lived in. And I said, well, that's okay. That's okay. We can still do this. And so I go to that meeting, and I recognized everybody there as people that I had met or used with or drank with or knew randomly. And I was like, well, okay, everyone's trying to get sober. And I was very, very excited about all of it. And then through the whole meeting, the only person that ever said anything was the guy that was leading it. And at the end of the meeting, everyone else there except for me walked up to him with a piece of paper to get that paper signed. Because they were all there because they had to be there. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh, this is not going to work for me at all. And I never went to another meeting. My sense of time during all of that was very strange, very I thought it was a lot longer than it really was. I got out of that first rehab on my birthday, which was January 10th. And I had spent Thanksgiving there and Christmas there. And I got out on my birthday, January 10th. I thought I had stayed sober a lot longer than I actually did. It was pretty quickly I started drinking again, and started drinking even more than I ever had. And I hid it from my son for a while, but he could tell because I was getting kind of mean again and saying things and treating him how he didn't deserve. And that poor kid did the smartest thing he could have possibly done to save himself. And he called his dad and said, Dad, I need you to come get me. And his dad drove out and picked him up. And I got scared of myself because I was like considering doing all of the things that I wasn't doing, that I hadn't done in a long time, going back to meth. And one night at about 2:00 in the morning, I started thinking that heroin might be a good idea. And that scared me so badly that I texted the person that got me into detox the first time, which was a mental health worker at one of the crisis units at 3:00 in the morning. I texted her and I said, I'm scared of myself and what I'm going to do. And I've started drinking again and I really need help. The next morning, she called me up and she said, well, okay, so here is the deal. I have an appointment here for you at 11:00 this morning. And you're going to be here so that we can talk about this. She said, or I can do a wellness check on you if you don't show up. And either way, you're going to be here. And I said, well, okay, I guess I'll be there. I can say one of the things that I scare myself a lot. And if I paint myself into a corner, it's out of sheer desperation, because I terrify myself in things that I would allow to happen. So thankfully, I painted myself into a corner with her, and I went to that appointment, and she said, well, there's this other detox that we know of in Texas. And I think it would be a really great idea. It works with your insurance, and we'll get you out of here and we'll get you going there, and then you can do rehab again. Are you ready to go? I said, well, I need till tomorrow. I need a little bit of time. And she's like, okay, sure. But you're going to call them and we're going to do this assessment with them and see if you qualify and all that. And then, and You sure you're going to do it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Okay, sure. So I don't remember calling them up and talking to them, but I do know that they said that they would send a driver to come and pick me up. And I lived 4 hours away from this place. And I said, okay. And they said, well, when will you be ready? And I said, okay, I'll be ready in the morning. And they said, okay. And I went home and I barely remember packing. I think I packed like 15 pairs of underwear and 1 pair of socks and a jacket. I don't remember. I didn't have very much when I got there. And I proceeded to drink very heavily for the rest of the night. And the next day, I didn't wake up to any phone calls from them. And the next thing I remember was somebody knocking on my door, and they collected me up and got my bag and got me in the car. And I went to a detox in Sherman. And I went through that detox process, and I don't really remember anything of being there. I don't remember talking to anybody. I barely remember getting there and going through the ER and getting up onto the floor. But what I do remember is I never missed a smoke break. Not one. I was there for every single one of those, but I don't remember much else. And I ended up going to a rehab facility in Ennis, Texas. And I went there and I had a caseworker. Her name is Emily, and I still know her to this day. I had a therapist that I saw there. His name was Joey. And Joey suggested that I do the IOP program that they have and do their sober living here in Texas. And it freaked me out, and I was terrified, and I was melting down, and I was talking to the case manager about it. And I was like, he wants me to stay here, and just bawling. And she had to deal with me doing all of these things and just holding it together with her. And she's like, well, I think it's a great idea. I said, are you crazy? Everything is in Oklahoma. I can't do this. Like, what? And she's like, yeah, but do you remember last time? I went, okay. All right, fine, I'll do it. I was terrified, scared to death. There were news reports while all of this was going on about this illness that was happening in China. And how they were talking about how they're scared it's going to come to the States, and like it's making people really, really sick. And we're watching this, and I was sitting in the group room of where we all eat at, watching this on the news. And I'm like, you guys, pay attention. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, they're talking about this on the news. I said, I'm old enough to remember the AIDS epidemic. And I remember nobody talked about it. There were no news reports about this horrifying thing that was killing people. So if they're talking about this on the news, this is scary. And over the next 2 weeks, suddenly everything was being shut down. When I went into rehab, the world was normal. When I left rehab and went to their IOP program, everything was shut down and it was shelter in place. And I'm looking at that counselor like, are you sure this is a good idea? I have $7 in my bank account. No family, no money. And you're telling me to come here. What if everything goes wrong? And he said, what if it does? Trust the process. Take a chance, a leap. And I'm like, y'all are crazy. I think you should be in here. Are you on drugs? Like, what are you doing? You're insane. And he's like, just try it. I said, okay, sure, I'll try it. Okay, fine. I was sitting in the backyard smoking a cigarette when I met John. And he had just gotten home to the sober house. and came down and was having a cigarette too. And we started talking and getting to know each other, smoking cigarettes in the gazebo, in the backyard of a sober living that was a lifeline for both of us. And we were talking and finding out that we were a lot alike and our stories were similar in the sense that we did not have any option but to live. Like, this was it. If this went sideways and we screwed this up, neither one of us, it wasn't going to end well for either one of us. And there was no safety net. There was nothing there to catch us when we fell. And we spent a lot of time in that backyard talking to each other and watching all of these people make really bad decisions and going, okay, well, that's what I'm not going to do. And we both would take these things that people would say to us and I tell people now, just do what the nice people tell you to do. And every suggestion they gave us, we did. I got a job. I went to my IOPs, and then I was asked to be a house manager for the sober living. And I did that for a very long time. And I went to the meetings that they told me I needed to go to, even though I hate going to in-person meetings. John also became the house manager. And so he was the house manager of the girls of the boys, and I was the house manager of the girls. And he found this group of people that terrified him. It was called CMA. And he started going there and they terrified him. And so he said, okay, well, that makes me really uncomfortable. That's where I'm going to go. And then he would ask me, hey, I'm going to this meeting. And I'm like, okay, well, have a great time. And then the next time he goes, he's like, hey, going to this meeting. You want to come? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll go. And he's like, okay, well, just know you're always invited. And I said, yeah, okay, no, because that's not how I just don't assume that I can go. And so then he just started making it a habit of, hey, we're going to go to this meeting. We're going to go. And that evolved into, okay, well, we're going to this meeting. And I said, okay, sure. And that is like how, we got very, very close through that and through being house managers together and taking the moment to talk to each other and decompress. And he continued on being house manager for a different place. And I stayed where I was at for a very long time of being a house manager for this IOP program and continuing to do that. And that helped me a lot because I got to see that I can't save everybody, that I can be there and I can hold my hand out to people and I can be a support system for them, but I can't save them and I can't do it for them. And it has to be their recovery. And I learned a lot about what not to do in my sobriety, as well as what I should do. I was 1.5 years sober when John gave me a phone call one night, and he said, hey, so I have this opportunity. They want me to run the admissions department for this detox, a drug and alcohol detox. And I think it's a great opportunity for me. And they said that I could go ahead and hire my own people. And I was just wondering if you'd want to come and work for me. Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't tell me what it was yet. I apologize. I'm misquoting this story. He said, I have an opportunity to run this program. And they said I could hire people and bring them on. And I'd really like you to come work with me. And I said, sure, absolutely. Let's do it. And he's like, don't you want to know what it is yet? And I said, I don't care. I trust you. And he said, well, okay, but let me tell you what it is. He said, it's a drug and alcohol detox facility, a medical detox drug and alcohol facility for this place. And I said, and he said, it's called The Haven. And I started laughing so hard. And he's like, what? I said, that's where I detoxed. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, 100%. That's where I detoxed. And so now I work for the company that I detoxed with almost 6 years ago. And I have been working for them for 4.5 years. It is the most incredible job that I have had. And I still, every single day, I wake up in the morning and I go, oh, I get to go to work today. I have not once in all of this time woken up and gone, fuck, I have to go to work today. It's challenging and it's heartbreaking and it's rewarding. And I get to do this every single day. And I get to do this surrounded by other people who love what they do. And I have got to make all of these steps and all of these strides with surrounding myself with people who want the same things that I want and are on the same path that I'm on. I live in a home with 3 other addicts currently. 2 of them are now happily married, and they run sober livings of their own and have been doing it for a long time to help other people and go to meetings. And I love them very much. And they're just a great support system and are there for me. I surround myself with people in recovery who have what I want or feel the way I do. I work a very honest program, and honesty to me is the only way that I can do this. If I start doing things that I feel like I have to hide or I don't want to tell people about, that is a big indicator to me that I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. And I tell on myself and I say all of the cliches and I believe all of them are true. Keeping your consequences right here, playing that tape through. I don't believe in going to a meeting and telling everybody it's sunshine and rainbows. I'm going to go to that meeting and I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on with me right then and how I'm feeling. Because I feel like if I do that, then I am helping the other person that thinks that there is something wrong with them because they still have these thoughts or these feelings or these things are happening or it's not wonderful all the time in sobriety. And I think those are the moments that really tell us who you are and that you're okay and that you can sit with these feelings and these thoughts and get through them, and that there's nothing wrong with you for having that to happen, having those feelings and those thoughts happen. I really got sidetracked right there.
I love it.
Sorry. So I now have my license again. I see my kids. I talk to my kids as much, as often as I can. I have my kids say, I love you, Mom. And they call me Mom. And that is, every time they say Mom, it's like a little jolt, like, oh, that's right. I get to be a mom now and I get to do these things. I am there for them if they need me. I now have my license again and I have a car and I pay rent and I do all of these things that I did not expect to be able to do because I thought I was going to die in that basement. And so every little accomplishment that I now have is so huge to me. My gratitude list, I used to tell my sponsor all the time, I don't know if you want me to give you my gratitude list because it's going to be the same every single day. I'm breathing. I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful that I have my sobriety. I'm grateful that I have my job. I'm grateful for the people in my life. And those are the little things are what I'm grateful for every single day. And I have a wonderful family now that I didn't have before. They talk about how getting into the middle of the program is how you stay sober. And I have all of these people that allow me to hide in the middle of the program, because to me, my nervous system still says that being seen is dangerous. So I get to sit in the middle and be a part of and be safe. And I have people in my life who will go to fellowship after the meetings where, they're loud and they're obnoxious and they're very vocal and they all are just, they love so much attention. And I get to sit there and be very quiet and have those same people that love me look at me and wink, put their hand on my knee to acknowledge that I'm there. And no one expects anything more of me than I'm able to give.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That really is, because, just that acknowledgement that you don't have to be the loud person in the room, and, you're there. I'm observing, and that they recognize that you're, that's where you want to be. Where you are that's where you want to be. It's beautiful.
And there's not that, as I'm listening to your story, and let me tell you, I know that you were terrified. You told your story so beautifully.
Mm-hmm. You did.
Thank you.
And so honest and transparent. And I loved everything you said, but when you said that you don't have to feel ashamed of the places and situations and things you have to do to survive. It's not about, in those moments, what got you there or what happens next. It is all a part of that recovery story. You talk about keeping it right here in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
If you push it down and say, I'm not going to talk about that, that's embarrassing. And that's everyone's first inclination,
yep.
Especially when you have so much trauma from such crucial ages. But if you allow yourself to forget or suppress, then that's how you end up back in that cycle. We talk a lot about, getting sober, right? And I'm using air quotes here for a reason, meaning the simple definition of quitting the substance, the drinking, and it can even be mental health related things. That is most certainly an important first step. But living a sober life is a completely different game. Mm-hmm. Completely. It's like seeing a huge football stadium and realizing that quitting the substance and the alcohol is really just one seat in the stadium. You think that it's like the only seat in the stadium at the beginning. It's only one. Mm-hmm. And, my brother, I always have a hard time calling him John because I call him Bubba, but Bubba John. I remember when it was it may have been right before you got sober, Ryan, or right in the beginning, and I was, I would call him a lot and say, I don't know what to do because, I have this child in early recovery and I don't trust it. He's gotten sober for all of these terrifying things, right? And he told me, and I know this is known for people in recovery, but for me, this was the first time I ever heard this. He's like, Jessica, the alcohol, because alcohol was yours, Ryan. The alcohol and the drinking is a symptom of the problem. So Ryan treats the symptom, but it's going to take a really long time before he gets to the actual problem. And that is a process. And like you said, it's not always a good one or a pretty one,
right,
or a fun one. It's not just like, oh, I don't drink anymore. Life is just like rainbows and flowers. Like everything is great.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of it that you talk about too, right? Like, you talked about how you said, oh, I'm doing great now. I'm not using, I'm not drinking, or maybe you were drinking, but on all accounts, you're like, I'm not getting drunk. I'm good. I don't need to do the IOP. Like, I fixed the problem. Like, I identified what the problem was. I don't partake in that anymore. So let me get home so that I can, like, get on with my life. And as you said that, I saw that look on your face of that was
myself good on
what
that one.
I was really, really just trying to convince myself
Yes.
it was just a snap of a finger, right? Because that's what everybody wants. They just want it to be like, oh, you quit drinking, you quit using, or whatever.
Poof.
You go home, get a job, pay your bills, show up. That's not, I mean, like I said, quitting is definitely the first step. But that's just getting your mind clear enough for you to actually show up and figure out what the issue is. And alcohol is so readily available. I heard you talk about that too. Like, you're buying drugs on the street from people, and if you want something bad enough, you get it. But alcohol, you just walk into a liquor store and get it and go.
Hell, you can have it delivered now.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know that he wouldn't mind that I say this, but my brother said that one of the things that resonated so much with him, that you guys have this connection, is crystal meth was his preferred, because in the beginning, he's like, I can be so productive. You can do these things. You can perform. And we grew up in a house and in a life where it is a little bit of a performance. You wear a mask, right? Like, you go to church, you act this way, you get to school, you're a studious. I know he shared with you, but our mom was a fantastic mother, but there were high expectations there. And you learn to wear those masks, and you learn to wear them so well that sometimes you forget that you're wearing them. And he's just said so many. I just remember very early on in his recovery, he's like, this girl, Michelle, like, she's so incredible. I mean, he's like, I thought that I had been through some things, but like, she's a mom and she has kids, and she never ever like feels sorry for herself, or if she does, it's not out loud. She gets up every day and she works the program, and there are days where she's like, I really don't want to do this, but she does it anyways. And he's like, we hold each other accountable. That was the biggest thing. He's like, we hold each other accountable. If we say we're going to do something, we do it. It doesn't matter how we feel that day. There's no like, oh gosh, I'm not feeling it, I have a headache. No. Very intentional with the things that we say and the way that we live our lives. And I see that, I mean, just hearing your story, I see so much of that in you. And I almost teared up whenever you said, that you were preparing to die, because around that same time with my brother, I remember we stopped planning for recovery or stopped calling jails. And I started trying to reconcile that eventually I was going to get a call saying he was dead. Or he was like, I remember I would call hospitals and see if they had any John Does. Because I'm like, I don't know where he is. And what I want to say to you, Michelle, is I'm so fucking glad you're alive. I'm so glad that you are alive. And I'm going to like tear up a little bit, because the world is better with you guys in it. And, we lost our mom a year and a half ago. And just speaking from like a child, I'm sure your kids are so fucking happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
I tell them consistently and all of the time, you have every right to be angry with me. And you have every right to hate me. And I wouldn't be upset with you if you did. It's okay if you are angry with me, because it wasn't right and you didn't deserve that. And I think that for me it's strange to me when I see how some people are as parents towards their kids, and I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, but I'm a mom. Like, that's, it, whenever I say stuff like that to people, and I say, my kids have every right to be mad, and if they're mad, it's okay. And they're just like, that's a really great way of looking at it. I said, I'm a mom. What do you mean? That's a great way of looking. I love them. Like, to me, it's just, I love my kids, and I have 2 really great and wonderful and surprisingly well-adjusted kids, considering what they've gone through, that they have the ability to have that like self-preservation, to make sure that they're okay.
Yeah.
And that they can be grown up enough that they're not dependent or codependent on me. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful they call me mom.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I get that as a mom myself. Like, I always say that they didn't ask to be here, and I'm sure you think back to you as a little girl, like, you don't ask for those things. These are lives that we non-consensually bring into the world, right? And they become adults, and you're not responsible for their behavior anymore. But you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, one of the hardest moments I had, because that Bubba and Lily, our daughter, are like super close. I mean, like, we were close. We still are close, but like watching them together is like watching us as kids.
I knew about Lily long before I knew about you. Yes.
Right. Exactly. And it's so funny, because when I found out I was pregnant with her, he was like mad. He's like, oh my God, you're going to have a kid. And they're like, head over heels in love with each other. But I remember one of the last times I saw him, and he showed up at my house, and he was like all tweaked out, and he was, all high and everything. And we had gone through the loop a million times. And he'd brought some coloring books or something for Lily. I don't remember. I just remember he was just not in a good place. And I had to put my body in between him and Lily in the door. And I just looked at him and I said, I love you. You can't come in here. I said, I have a little girl in this house who thinks you are the best thing in the world. And at the time I was like, she's too young to understand this. I said, I have to choose. Because, up until I had a kid, there was no choosing. I mean, he was my brother. I would have done anything. But you're right. You become a mom, right? And it was hard. And she was crying. Let me see Bubba. I mean, it was awful. She's, she didn't understand. She was so mad, and he was so mad. And I just kept telling him, I love you, but you got to go. You can't be here. You can't hurt her. You can't do that. And so I get that, being a mom, right? Like, I haven't been where you or my brother was, but it is an animal instinct to protect your children. It's a non-negotiable. And even for you, right? Like, you don't want to hurt your kids. Never. But they know that. And I can only imagine how happy they are to have you back. And I say have you back because, when you get sober, and I'd hate to keep bringing my brother up, but that's what connects us, is he's like, Jess, like, you quit talking to me and you cut me out of your life, but then I got sober and I went into rehab, and it's like you were just there. And I said, I never left. I was just waiting for you to show back up. It's like I was in a holding pattern. And I would imagine the same thing for your kids. Like I say, they got you back because it's not that you weren't there, right? Like, we so often look at addicts or people who are struggling and think that, oh, you're choosing this life. And how could you do that? And yeah, of course, there is some reckoning within yourself, realizing that you have to choose to be sober. But it really is a disease. It really is like someone goes into your brain and like plays around. And what I've heard from a lot of people is they're like, when I really, really got sober, like truly, really got sober, it was like I woke up from a coma. Like, some of the stuff I remember, but some of the stuff I'm like, I did not do that. That's not me. I would never. Because it really does just, I mean, even you, we talk about stuff and he's like, I don't remember doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, because it wasn't you. You know, we have a joke. I'm like, anytime we talk about Ryan's drinking days, I call it my ex-husband. And I do that on purpose. And he's like, your ex-husband is like a dick, man. I hate that fucking guy, you know? But there's some truth in that, because not the same person whatsoever at all. And so I'm just so happy you guys are sober and present and thriving. And I mean, I get every picture of you, Michelle. My brother's like, oh my God, look at Michelle. Like, he remembers when you got your teeth fixed, and he's like, she's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I just want her to smile all the time. And when you guys like go to plays or musicals, I mean, he is infatuated with you in all the best ways. And I see why. It's because you are such a beautiful person. And again, I know this was difficult for you, but there are so many people who are listening, I'm sure, that are like, oh my God, that happened to me. I've been there too. Oh my gosh, I would never admit that out loud, because I didn't know that other people had been through those things just like you. Right. And that's strong. I know that you felt a lot of that too, Ryan, especially like, you know, you had issues with gambling, and that's like a whole thing that's not talked about, right? Like that's an underground situation too. Mm-hmm. These things are just like hidden. So you think, oh, well, I guess I'm the only one with this problem. No,
not till you get out and talk about it. That's for damn sure.
And community's everything.
Yeah. Community was huge. Community was the biggest part. Just like, you know, you and John getting together, you know, me and just, you know, it was like a handful of guys and a couple of girls in the rooms that got together. And that's what really kind of got me through my first, you know, 60, 90 days, was just, you know, having that sense of community of, not that anything did go wrong, but if it did, I know I could pick the phone up and call somebody. And it wasn't my wife, or, you know, my old drinking buddy, because they sure weren't going to help me out with anything. But to circle back to something you had said, and it's funny because I haven't thought about this in probably a year and a half. But a few months into my sobriety is where I heard the "you get to," and that was as silly as it is, and I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world when I heard it. You may have too. I was like, damn, that changed my life a little bit, because, you know, it was one of those things like, God, I have to do this shit. I have to do this. It's like, no, you fucking idiot. You get to do it. And the reason you get to do it is because you got sober. Because I'll tell you right now, the path you are going down, you wouldn't worry about having to do anything, because you'd probably be buried somewhere.
Right.
And to me, that was a big mind set change, because I've taught that to other people. And it's funny because I still do that today, but I never think about it until I hear someone like yourself bring it up. You know, same thing with the gratitude. I do a gratitude list every single day on my phone through an app. And the funny thing is, it's the same 3 things, and it's been the same 3 things for over 2.5 years. It's my sobriety, my family, and my health. I don't need anything else. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just gravy on top of it. But if I have those 3 things, I'm grateful for them every day. It's like everything else takes care of itself. It's amazing. So anyway, thank you for bringing that up. That was great.
Of course.
We still have lists all over the house. Like on the bathroom mirror, he has like things to do every day, you know, and it's been the same. I don't think you've taken it down and it's changed.
No.
And I always think it's funny too, because Ryan, in his drinking days, he would get very mean too. My brother, the same way, right? And these are people that are not like naturally mean or aggressive people. Now they'd be like, that isn't like, no way. I'm like, yeah, because it changes you. And on one of his to-do lists, the number one thing every time, he's like, don't be an asshole. Mm-hmm. And it sounds funny and silly, but it's like, it's so much deeper than that. Because if you sit and think about it, it's like, it's not just obviously don't be an asshole, but don't be an asshole in the sense of understand, hold space for other people too. Don't forget how hard it is. Don't forget, because I think as time goes on, like you talked about keeping it right here, you have to remember what it felt like in those first few days. You're like, I don't know that this is going to work. I don't know that I can survive this either, you know? And I always think that's okay. Don't be an asshole, because it's one of those things you think about and you're like, oh, ha, that's funny. And then you stop and think about it and you're like, oh, that's so much bigger than the statement of don't be an asshole, because, you know, we have family or friends that struggle, and it's hard because you get in that mindset too of, well, I had to do it. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing anybody can do. And then you have to stop and go, okay, don't be an asshole. There may not be anything you can do to help, but there are things you can do to hurt. Not that it's your responsibility, but like, lead with compassion and kindness and understanding, because this is, a lot of people don't get sober. A lot of people don't make it, and it doesn't make them weak people, and it doesn't make them any less than someone that does get sober. It's hard. The human experience is fucking hard, even when you have everything working in your favor. It's hard all the time. So, I mean, I commend y'all. And the biggest thing too for loved ones is, one person can't be everything to you. Like with my brother, I'm so grateful that he has you. I'm so grateful that he has his community. I'm so grateful that you have your Reframe community and your support. I think a lot of times with loved ones, they're like, well, why didn't you just talk to me? Why didn't you just tell me? It's not that they don't trust you or love you. It's that, you know, that you can't be that person. Like, you know, my brother didn't want to see us the first year and a half he was getting sober. It's not that he didn't love us. He's like, I have to focus on me and allowing people to have that space. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of things that you go through on a daily basis that you don't tell me. I don't need to know everything, but you have that community of people who get it, right? Like, they're just conversations you have with people who, it's not like they're like, oh, and listening and understand. Like, they get it. Like, full on get it. I'll never get it. I love you. I love you, Michelle, and my brother. I'll never get it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll never 100% get what that feels like. So the fact that you guys have these communities and these people, and that's what we're trying to do with this podcast, is realize, like, there are people who really get it. But, you know, listening to podcasts like this, listening to your story, I know you've shared it a couple of other times and you're going to share it again. Like, that's how you find those people. And that's why it really is so important to tell your story.
If one person hears what I have to say and says, oh, okay, so I hear myself in that, then that's all that matters. Like, that makes it 100%.
Even when you really fucking don't want to. Even when you're like, please don't make me do this. I don't want to do it. So we're going to ask you the final question to kind of bring it up to a lighter note. And you already know what the final question is going to be. And I kind of said the intro, like, we went to visit in Dallas and we were all together. And I made this really funny, I told this funny story about Ryan, like, pissing on the floor in a hotel. And I thought everybody was going to be like, ha, 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 belly laughing. And you guys all looked at me like, oh God, like, that's just hold my sparkling water. That's like, that was like a normal Tuesday afternoon for me. That's nothing. And so it got us thinking about, like, you know, we talk about all these deep, dark moments, but, you know, we all have a little bit of a dark sense of humor too. And you have to be able to laugh at yourself. You also have to remember to take it seriously, but also leave space for smiles and laughs and unserious stuff. So it could be about you. It could be about a friend. It could be about anybody. A drunken or high or something story that just reminds you that you're a human and you got to laugh at yourself.
So we were talking before and I was telling you that I you know, it got very dark through a lot of it. And but for me, like, the biggest story that sticks out for me, I was actually newly sober. And it was the moment when I went, oh, I'm an addict. Like, that explains so much for me. And it was the oddest moment for me. So I had decided I was going to make soup. I like to make soup, and sometimes it's just comforting. And because I had all the kids around me and so many people in the house, I don't know how to cook for just one person. So I went to Walmart to go get a stock pot. You know, stock pot, they're like this big. So I go to Walmart to go get a stock pot so that I can make some soup. And I get there and I go to the pot aisle, and I'm standing in the pot aisle and I'm looking at the pot, and there's just a stock pot, thin metal, $15, no big deal. And it's sitting there, and I'm like, okay. And I go to grab it, and I look at the one that's next to it, and this one has a lid. And I'm like, oh, well, that would be a good idea. I could have that stock pot, and I could put the lid on it, and it won't splash everywhere. It won't make a big mess. That's probably a better idea, because that's better. And I'm sitting there, and I go grab that one, and right next to it is one that's a little bit bigger and holds more. And then I'm like, oh, that one's bigger. I could have even more. I could have leftovers. It'll be great. This is probably the best idea, and this is the best one to get. And I go to grab that one, and then I see another. And it has that thick metal on the bottom that's going to hold the heat a little bit further, a little bit more, and it'll cook a little better. And I don't know why that little piece of metal mattered more, but I'm like, okay, well, that's a great idea. I'm going to get that one. And then I look, and then there's a bigger one that has a glass top, and that last one, like, it had gone up a little bit more in price and a little bit more in price. And this one was like $60. And I'm like, oh, it's bigger. It'll hold more. It has heat conducting. It has a lid on it that's glass, and it's heavy, and that lid will stay on it. And that's great. And then I stood there, and by the time I realized I had been there for 45 minutes looking at pots, and I went, Jesus Christ, Michelle, you're one fucking person. You don't need that much soup. Just get the little pot. Why are you even like this? And it dawned on me. Oh, I'm an addict in everything I do.
Yep.
It's not just that I do these things when I'm high and sober. I have those thought patterns even when I'm sober about a soup pot. And once I realized that I'm an addict in everything that I do, my life got so much easier, because it helped me to stop and take a moment and check my motives. But I love telling that story so that people go, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it now.
They
I
all
get
relate.
it. And I'm like, right.
You don't need the $60
45 minutes in
pot.
Walmart for a soup pot.
For a soup pot. And you could have just bought a can that you put in the fucking microwave and just have some.
There you go.
I love that.
That is a great story.
That is
I'm going to use that.
That's a fantastic story. Yeah. I love that. That is so true. Because that goes back to, you have to you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed, because you're not broken. You just don't understand the way that your mind works, and knowledge is power. And then you can go, oh, yeah.
So that's why this
I'll take the $15 one and go on about my day.
It usually takes me 2 steps instead of the 10 now to realize that that's where my brain is going. So it's not perfect yet, but I'm getting there.
And it never will be.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing as perfection.
I was diagnosed with OCD, and I thought that my, my doctor was completely insane, because I had this idea in my head that OCD meant that you were like a clean freak and you had to like turn a knob 12 times. And for some people, I'm sure it is like that. And I came home and I told him, I was like, oh my God, I was diagnosed with OCD. And he's like, yeah. I said, what do you mean? Like, yeah. He's like, you stand in your closet for 45 minutes trying to rationalize in your head what shirt to wear. You have a million shirts, but you don't like this one because it makes you feel this way, or you don't like this one because it doesn't have this, and then this. And he's like, Jess, yeah, like, I've known that. Where have you been?
Then you have to move on to the pants and your shoes, and it's 3 hours later, you still haven't left.
Now that I know that, you're so right. It's not that it makes it any less uncomfortable. You can just go, okay, fucking stop.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. And that's so true. That resonates with so many things. I love that. And we love you, Michelle.
Yep. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
We really do appreciate it.
And
thank you for your story.
Apparently, I'm shipping my daughter off to Dallas a couple of times next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes. So, I have heard that is the plan for him. He's getting a room ready for her.
Good luck with that.
Have fun.
I love her to pieces, but them together is just everybody else just get out of the way.
Well, it's probably because it reminds you of you and him together.
I have just been thrown to the wolves at this point. I mean, we've always been super close, and I love him to pieces. But he's like, "You stay home, just send me her."
On. That's right.
And I'm like, "Okay, okay."
Well, Michelle, thanks again so much, and I'm sure we're going to see you soon.
Yes, thank you, you guys. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right,
hug Lily for me.
Talk to you soon.
I will.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.